Now, as you all know, Disney Star Wars has had a very big struggle the past couple of years, especially with The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, really not agreeing with every single fan out there, and really leaving things off with leaving, of course, a lot of bad tastes in fans' mouths, of course, when it came to that actual trilogy, and what happened to the Kenobi series and Boba Fett was also a mixed bag of reviews. But given that we now have Jon and Dave fully taking control over Star Wars, except for the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, they are really preparing to turn things around and really kind of embrace this new, passionate-driven Star Wars franchise. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about Disney Star Wars is that yes, we do have Bob Iger making a lot of recent decisions to change the overall image of Lucasfilm and to really have Jon and Dave calling the shots, along with George Lucas, by the way, on what needs to be done with the canon, the introduction of Legends coming back, as well as providing new material and even digging up unapproved old Star Wars material by George Lucas that never made it out to be in Legends back in the 1990s. Now that brings us to what Bob Iger recently approved, and it's a big deal for the image of Lucasfilm, the environment, the atmosphere of the company, and everything related to how the workflow is going to be done at the company. So with that being said, we know that Bob Iger is really trying his absolute best to turn Star Wars around for the better, and to really provide fans a, great and amazing experience with the franchise moving ahead. Now, given that Lucasfilm is getting ready to announce a big slate of Star Wars shows for the future, it's described that currently Jon and Dave are gearing up to making most of Legends canon with their new shows. However, Disney CEO Bob Iger recently made a deal with Lucasfilm creatives. Now, it's noted that Disney CEO Bob Iger has recently approved Jon and Dave's plans to fire a handful of Lucasfilm creatives and employees in order to hire new ones for more passionate replacements to steer Star Wars in the right path for new and upcoming shows for 2024 that will be divided up into different teams per show. Now, this was first initiated by Jon and Dave since they gained more privileges over at Lucasfilm after their big promotions granted by both Iger and Chapek. And Iger recently approved this plan to clean house at Lucasfilm drastically by this summer. So let me stop right here for a second. Now, this was all initiated by both Jon and Dave to really clean up the atmosphere over at Lucasfilm as a company and all the different creatives, replacing them, hiring new ones, firing some of the current ones that aren't so passionate, driven, and how they can really change the overall structure of the company. Now, this is happening. It's going to all take place by this summer. You're going to get a complete revamp of the company by 2024 officially, when everything actually sets in motion. So the preparation begins this summer, and everything is going to actually happen in 2024, right around Q1 of that year. It's a very big deal because, let's face it, even though Jon and Dave are still in full control and have a lot of, privileges and a lot of power over there, there's still a handful of creatives and employees that are very loyal to Kathleen Kennedy's vision that's not fitting in with Jon and Dave's work. You see, the problems do arise when you have a lot of concept artists and a lot of other types of creatives that are more lenient toward Kathleen Kennedy's side of the story. And that's what Jon and Dave are trying to fix. They're trying to fix the workflow to better suiting their vision, 100% through and through. Now, obviously, Bob Iger is doing this out of desperation. I will say this time and time again that it's not really like he's doing this out of the love for the fans, but he's definitely doing this because he knows that his job is on the line, or even at the very least, his image to Star Wars fans is on the line. And that's exactly why Phase 5 of Marvel is getting all cleaned up, and at least for the cinematic side of things. But everything related to this is that John and Dave really initiated this right from the get-go. Now, moving on, alright, this is where things begin to pick up, is that it's currently unclear specifically which creatives and employees will be replaced and of which departments, but they are said to be significant to the point that it will change the true nature of the working environment over at Lucasfilm. George Lucas as well as Favreau and Filoni are said to have a big role in the hiring of new employees and creatives for the company that will be chosen this year and hired in 24, officially to bring Star Wars to a level like never before for the fandom, to enjoy true passionate work from its creators. Now, it's described also that Kathleen Kennedy tried to prevent all of this from happening at no surprise in some of the recent meetings, but Disney board members wanted nothing to do with her opinion at all. Now, keep in mind that Disney has monthly meetings on the structure of Lucasfilm, where it's heading, where all these Star Wars TV shows are going, etc. And this is by far one of the biggest and, the prime examples of Lucasfilm finally meeting, a big transition. Something that was long overdue. I've said this time and time again. This needed to happen in 2018 after the release of The Last Jedi. It just had to happen. But it wasn't going to happen at that time because they were still kind of like in the middle-way point of really getting things going with Star Wars and all, at least on the cinematic end of things. And so Bob Iger would always blame the underperformance of Solo on a frequency issue, that fans were just tired of the franchise, generally speaking, that they had Star Wars fatigue. Absolutely not true. The overall problem with Solo's performance, believe it or not, just had to do with The Last Jedi's terrible direction of the plot and how fans were just kind of losing motivation to see another Star Wars movie at the time, or at least seeing a movie, with repeat ticket sales. And it was also a mixture of that and the fact that there was also a large percentage of fans that weren't necessarily asking for a Han Solo spin-off movie per se. Even though I myself thought it was entertaining, I don't believe it's anywhere near the overall, status of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. But that brings us to the next big thing here, is that John and Dave, as well as George, they are going to be in control over the hiring of new creators. So this is substantial because this means that, for sure, we're going to be getting passionate creators coming on board over all of the upcoming Star Wars projects. So keep that in mind, and that's one thing to absolutely look forward to, is that you're going to have a lot of things happening in between this year and next year. A lot of transitions, a lot of changes being made by Bob Iger. We're going to be continuing to cover this and fill you guys in on all of this, so stay tuned on all of that. Anyways, I'm very much intrigued to hear what you guys have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. Thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Night to moon, we hear them moans again.